So welcome to my presentation. My name is Daniela Ortiz, and this will be me throughout this journey in this course as a mental health counselor and training. Overall, my personality and just who I am, I've always had interest in topics that revolve around life. What's the purpose of life? What's the meaning behind everything that we do? What's up with our spiritual part? How do we connect to a higher power? And overall, how we share love, how we are in love, and just topics that involve the person to develop their higher self. But then there's also the other part that has always interested me, which is our dark side. What's underneath all those shadows? How do we end up developing depression? How do we end up getting caught in anxiety? How do we develop addictions? How do we end up pretty much transforming ourselves into somebody else because we basically disconnect from life? So all of this has always shifted me to find answers, and a lot of these answers always end up being finding the meaning of your life, being responsible for your actions and your thoughts, and also becoming very self-aware of what you are doing, how you are doing it, and also how much of it you are doing. So with that in mind, all of these questions that I have this semester have been, let's say, somewhat answered. We discussed a couple of theories, and although I had heard of them, of some of them in the past, this semester I was able to connect the dots a little bit more, which brings me to right here. Have no fear, person-centered therapy is here, and essential therapy. So with these two therapies, I was able to find some parts of who I am, because these theories revolve around the person being responsible, being self-aware, and finding meaning of their life, but by reflecting on who they are as a person, and reflecting on their actions, reflecting on what they have done, and it brings the person back, let's say, back to center, so they can become self-aware and deal with their emotional baggage, but also find ways to express them, to express what you feel, to accept, to transform, and to ultimately to heal those parts. Not to be overwhelmed by them, but just being aware that you can control them, you can control your feelings, and they don't control you. And although these two theories have helped me to answer some questions and just overall to help me understand maybe a client a little bit more and just even myself, I have also ran into some challenges, which were very clear in both counseling sessions that we had. One major challenge that I have is being comfortable with silence. It's basically it makes me anxious for the other person. I sometimes wish I could do a little bit more of silent pauses, but I don't know how the other person is gonna feel it, so I'm basically always asking myself is this normal? So it becomes a little awkward tension and just an awkward situation for myself. As of now, how am I able to address them, or how can I cope with this? I would probably say breathe, and just to take my time to accept that this person may just need some time to open up, that it's not my responsibility to make them tell me everything in one session. It also makes me to become more empathetic and develop a more genuine relationship with this person, to just accept them, to create a nurturing environment, and just to overall understand that we all have different ways of opening up, and eventually, as the therapeutic relationship continues to grow, my lovely client will be able to disclose more information. And finally, what has changed throughout this course is definitely my perspective in regards to how I see the clients. I used to see myself as the superhero, that I was supposed to be saving others. I was supposed to pull people out of their darkness. I was supposed to save the other and prevent them from getting hurt, from committing suicide, from being overwhelmed with themselves. I thought that I've always had that idea in mind that I'm protecting somebody else, that it's my responsibility to be there for the other person. And now becoming a counselor, that just became 100 times worse. But then throughout this course, I have realized that it's not about saving the other person, it's about walking side by side with them. And a lot of what person-centered theory addresses is that it's not about telling the person what to do or how to do it. It's about helping them to develop their own strengths, helping them to develop their own voice, and then somehow working with what they have, not what I think that they should have or what I think that they should do. And of course, this path has a lot of paths that it can lead to. And again, it's not my responsibility. It's the therapeutic relationship that determines how the session goes, what works for the client and what doesn't. And a lot of this has shifted because now I've realized and I'm slowly understanding that it's all about accepting. It's about creating a nurturing environment. It's about helping the other person become aware, helping them to somehow see that they have choices, that it's not the life that is choosing them, it's the life that they are choosing. So it's just about taking that time to realize that it's okay to not know certain things at certain times. And my responsibility is just to be there, to be a support, to be a helper, not to change their life, but just help them enhance what they already have and just help them see the bigger picture, but walking side by side them, not being the superhero of their life. So this has been my journey throughout this course, which I have enjoyed a lot, even though I may have some challenges. I know that there are lots of paths that I can take to ultimately become a helper, not a superhero.